He was committed to authenticity. He was committed to who he was as a producer, as an artist. And despite what was being pushed in the hip hop community at the time, despite what everybody else liked at the time, he said, look, I like what I like. I know what I like. I know what I create. I know that what I create, even if people can't stomach it yet, even if people can't handle it yet fully, I know at the end of the day that this is amazing art. This is amazing music. And in time, people will see that. What's good with everybody? It's your boy Gino Jones coming at you again with another video. Appreciate everybody who showed love to the last one. If you haven't seen it, go ahead, check it out. It was a good one. Got some, some good responses, things of that nature on social media. So go peep, you might be interested. Jumping into the topic for the day, man. Today we really talking about discovering your it factor, if you will, as a creative. What do I mean by that? So essentially what I mean by discovering your it factor, the thing that distinguishes you, the thing that distinguishes your art from everybody else. So for a music producer, that would be discovering your sound, right? Like the unique sound that when somebody listens to your beats, they can hear it and say, you know what, that sounds like insert producer name beat. So that's what I mean when I say it factor, but obviously applying that not just to music producers, but applying that to artists like Basquiat. He was famous for putting a little crown in all of his paintings, or at least most of his paintings. That's what he was known for. That was his it factor, if you will. And so hopefully I can help you figure out today through this video what your particular creative it factor is. So we're gonna jump into it. All right, so the way I'm gonna do this, I'm breaking this down into 4 different points that I think will be clear enough and helpful enough to help you discover what your it factor is as a creative. So without further ado, we're just gonna go ahead and jump into it. The number 1 point that I have is you have to have a commitment to authenticity if you're gonna find and discover your it factor as a creative. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is you have to have an internal resolve to say, I don't care what the trend is. I don't care what everybody else is doing. I don't care how everybody else sounds. I don't care what music is constantly blasted on the radio and how so much of it sounds so similar. I do not care. I am going to stay true to who I am as an artist, who I am as a creative. Even if people don't see the vision right now, even if people don't rock with my particular style right now, I like my style. I know the vision. I know the trajectory that I'm confident that I'm going on. I rocks with what I'm doing. And so because of that, there's only a matter of time until I actually build up that following and I have plenty of people rocking with what I do as well. You can look at so many different people throughout the last 2 decades, let's just say, right, who came out here and were doing things that were just very different. Kanye West, I mean, he's one of my creative inspirations, one of my biggest creative inspirations. When he first came on the scene, the type of music that he was introducing to the public, to the hip hop community, was so drastically different than what everybody was used to that Rockefeller Records was not pushing his album. Like, they weren't helping him out, you know what I'm saying? Like, he had to go and get it on his own, because at the end of the day, he had the vision. Isn't that something? Like, the label he was signed to, the actual label he was signed to, they didn't even see the vision. They didn't believe ultimately in what it was that he was doing, but he believed in. He was committed to authenticity. He was committed to who he was as a producer, as an artist. And despite what was being pushed in the hip hop community at the time, despite what everybody else liked at the time, he said, look, I like what I like. I know what I like. I know what I create. I know that what I create, even if people can't stomach it yet, even if people can't handle it yet fully, I know at the end of the day that this is amazing art. This is amazing music. And in time, people will see that. Here we are, all these years later, and he's one of the best to ever do it. So that's just one story. That's just one person. That's just one example, but that's a perfect example to having that internal resolve to say, look, no matter what, I'm gonna stick to my guns in a good way. Like, this is not me saying be stubborn. This is not me saying that if your stuff is actually trash and people are trying to tell you that, you just don't listen and you just keep pushing. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you are being deliberate, if you are being excellent in everything that you do, if you are creating like meaningful, deep, good art, if that's what you're doing, like if you're producing excellent and people don't rock with it, that's what I'm talking about. If you're producing excellence and people don't rock with it, that's when you say, nope, this is the hill I'm gonna die on, and until people catch up, then I'll rock out party of one, and that's cool with me. It's good to have inspiration, by the way, and it's good to be influenced by other people, but we get into trouble when that inspiration and that influence turns into actually copying and mimicking the people that we're influenced by. So that's why you got to have that internal resolve, because at the end of the day, if you don't have that internal resolve, then when things get hard, when not enough people are rocking with your stuff, you're just gonna follow the trend, and that's not what we need to do. So you got to be committed to authenticity. Number 2 is you got to put in the reps. That goes without saying, right? Like, you actually have to put in the reps. You got to put in your 10,000 hours, just like everybody else. Sean Covey, in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Individuals or something like that, he has a quote that says, "We are what we repeatedly do." So if you're trying to discover your it factor, if you're not putting in reps, like if you are an artist and you only painting or drawing twice a week, you're not putting in enough reps. And look, I am not this don't get no sleep, we in the studio till 4 in the morning every morning, I don't need no time with my family. Like, that's not me. I'm not on that. So I'm not telling you that every single hour of your day has to be dedicated to whatever it is that you're trying to be successful at. Contrary to popular belief, contrary to what all these success gurus are telling you, there's a balance. You can balance your family, your relationships, your finances, your physical and mental and emotional health, and still be successful. Look at Toby Wigwe. Perfect example. From what I see, I don't know him personally, but from what I see, he has a great balance and he is quite successful. So to all those people that are telling you that you got to give up your entire life to be successful, they are completely incorrect. You can have a balance. That's a side note. Like I was saying, reps. You got to put in the reps. This ain't Marvel. This ain't the comic books, or this ain't DC. There ain't no radioactive explosion or heart-shaped herb or serum or anything that you're going to encounter and just immediately become this super productive and creative person. Like, no, you got to put in the reps just like everybody else. If you want to find your sound, if you want to find what it is that distinguishes you from everybody else in your particular field, that takes reps. You got to put in the reps. The more reps you do, the better you become at something. And the better you become at something, the more competence you have at something, the more confidence that you have, and the more that you're able to do things excellently and strategically, not just from a place of, oh, we just kind of guessing or whatever, but you're able to do it from a place of deliberate action. You know what you want to achieve, and you can actually understand exactly what needs to be done in order to achieve it. All right, number 3, let me get the camera. Number 3 is experimentation. That's a huge part of discovering your it factor, because in order to discover what distinguishes you from everybody else, that insinuates uniqueness, that insinuates separation from you and everybody else. The only way that you can actually get to the place where you discover what that is for you is you got to try stuff. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to make trash. You're going to make trash. You're going to make a lot of trash. If you're a writer, you're going to write a lot of things that are corny, that don't make sense, that aren't deep, that don't connect very well to the entirety of whatever it is that you wrote. And that applies to whatever that is for you. The point is, you're going to create trash. You're going to miss it. And that's okay. Diamonds don't start off as diamonds. They start off as coals or whatever they are, and then they go through a process to become diamonds. So in order for you to become a diamond, in order for you to discover what it is that you're looking to discover about who you are as a creative, you have to try stuff. Go out there, re-embrace that inner kid who believed that anything could be done. Mud pies were actual cuisine at the time. Obviously they weren't, but in our heads they were. You know what I'm saying? And we went into creating them mud pies like we were sous chefs in the back of somebody's, you know what I'm saying, 5-star kitchen. That's how we approached it. I don't know if y'all used to do this. I know me and my brother used to do this. We used to take like products from the house, like lotion and Vaseline and Listerine and all this stuff. We used to mix it together. Used to act like we were scientists or something, creating like some kind of cure for a disease or whatever. We legitimately believed that we were like scientists, that we were creating something meaningful at that time. So go back to that place. Go back to that you. Go back to that inner child that was just out here just creating, just having a great time, just trying stuff, not worried about what other people thought. When I was growing up, there wasn't any social media, so that didn't matter. But you were just out here, you just created because it was fun to create. Go back to that place. Try different stuff. You'll be surprised at what you find. You know what I'm saying? Go outside the box. Get uncomfortable. Do stuff that you wouldn't normally do. And when you pair that with the repetitions, now you're that much closer to finding what your it factor is. And then finally, number 4 is time. Again, this goes without saying. Anything that is great takes time. As I said before, everybody got to put in their 10,000 hours. Everybody. Nobody misses that. And obviously with social media and all that stuff, we live in this microwave culture where it seems like everybody's on the come up immediately. That's not how it works. 9 times out of 10, whoever you're looking at that just blew up or just had some kind of significant success, there's a very good chance that it took them a very long time to get there. At the very least, it took months. More likely, it took years, depending on the significance of whatever it is that they did. It's all right if it takes a lot of time. S1, the producer who produced Power off of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, he produced Guilt Trip off of Yeezus. There's a lot of other songs he's produced as well. He's worked with Beyonce, he's worked with Drake, he's worked with Eminem. But the point is, like, he didn't get his big break. Like when he created Power, I want to say he was like, I think he was in his mid 30s, maybe early 30s, but I think he was like in his mid 30s, like 34, 35, something like that. It took a minute. It took him a minute to get there. Like, and I think he had been producing for like 12 to 16 years or some joint like that. Don't quote me. I don't remember the exact numbers, but he had been producing for a very long time before he got his big break. But his big break was a big break. You know what I'm saying? And it was because he was committed to the process over time. He put in the reps, he tried new stuff over time, and then he got his opportunity. That's how it works. If you want to discover your it factor, that is, from what I've seen, from what I know, from other people, from other stories. Obviously, I'm still in my process, but that seems to be the formula. Be committed to being authentic. Put in the reps, put in the time, try stuff out. You mix all of those things together, and then you find yourself in this place where now you're the person where people are like, hey, yo, that particular style, that particular sound, that particular way that somebody wears clothing or puts different pieces of architecture together, whatever the case, that's them. Like, they created that. Anybody that we say that about, anybody that we look at and esteem them as like an original person that created something, or, you know, were the beginning of a particular trend, I guarantee you all of them shared those 4 things in common. They stuck to their guns about who they were as creatives. They put in the reps, they put in the time, and they tried stuff out. And when it all came together, they became who they were, as we know them at least. So as a final encouragement, if you don't know what your it factor is, if you're still discovering what your sound is, if you're still discovering what distinguishes you from everybody else, from every other painter, from every other writer, from every other photographer, whatever that is, as a creative, if you're still figuring it out, that's all right. Be encouraged. I'm still figuring it out in many ways. I've been producing long enough to understand a lot more about what my sound is. I'm growing in confidence in what my sound is. Like, I don't think I'm like 100% there yet, but I'm close. I'm closer today than I was when I started this journey 2 years ago, or over 2 years ago now. So be encouraged. It's all a journey, but just stick with it. Stay committed. Don't be discouraged when you fail. Don't be discouraged when people don't like it. Don't be discouraged when the views are minimal and the engagement is minimal and all that stuff. It's all good, man. Stick with it. Understand what you're here to do. Understand the vision that you have in your mind for your art. Stick with it. Do it with others. Persevere. Have that grit. And as I say, let's get to work.